I would like to welcome Moses Kemibaro, who has years of experience on digital market and blogging and different many other stuffs based on digital market. So you guys, you can listen and hear what he's going to say to open the space. And later on, I believe that you're going to learn a lot from him, as I did last month. As I did last month. So I believe if you stick to the end of this space, you're going to get experience and you're going to learn a lot of stuff. So you're very welcome, Mr. Moses Kemibaro, to open up the space.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. This is my first time being on a Twitter or X space from Tanzania. I'm Jambo. It's very nice to be here. And I'm delighted to talk about a topic that's close to my heart, which is digital marketing. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Dot Savvy. We've been in business now for 21 years. Um, we started off basically in my bedroom many years ago, building websites. And obviously, those days we didn't call it digital marketing, we used to call it online marketing or that sort of thing. And obviously, those days the internet was not what it is today in East Africa, in Kenya, in Tanzania. But pole pole, we've come a long way. And after all those years, I've managed to be in this business where we've been helping clients build websites, doing social media, doing content, and so forth. Along the way, I had the opportunity to start a blog. It more started off like a bit of a journal where I was just sharing my thoughts and opinions about things in technology. And then over time, I don't know how it happened. 15 years later, it's still one of the most popular technology blogs, where I write about all things technology in Kenya and Africa and also East Africa. For me, I think the way that Musale started this meeting, I think is perfect because the idea that unaweza kupata kazi if you use digital and do your own things, especially if you can be an influencer or a thought leader or what we call a key opinion leader. It's a different form of employment. Today, for instance, in Kenya, we have, I think, close to 30 million internet users. I think Tanzania has around the same. So kwa vile it's very important and very possible. If you don't get a normal job, unawezekana upate kazi kwa internet. And more importantly, from digital marketing, where you can create content, you can share information, you can help people market themselves. These are services that everyone needs today, and there's a lot of opportunity over there. And then, of course, now with the situation of artificial intelligence, you see that it's getting easier and easier for people to create content, whether it's images, writing content, even translating content is so much easier now. And even last night, I attended the Samsung Galaxy S24 launch in Nairobi. And I can tell you right now, the technology and the way that it's working is going to make it super easy for everyone to create content and do things online. So for me, definitely, I'm a big supporter of this. And I'm more than happy to share anything and everything you might want to know about how you can use digital marketing for your career, for your business, maybe even as a way of becoming an influencer. But more importantly, it is a great opportunity for anyone out there.
Okay, thank you so much. That was amazing testimony from Moses Ikemibaro, who has been in digital market for years of experience, as you had. By the way, I can say, guys, niliona ni very important kama tunaweza tukawa na a session with Moses Kemibaro. To me, imetokea kama bahati, I can say, kwa sababu nimekuwa in years nikiwa nafanya in digital market, content creation, lakini from just a single class I can say or single workshop nilijifunza vitu ambavyo kikawaida niliona ambavyo nilikuwa sivifanyi kawaida, vikanijenga sana, vimenisaidia kutengeneza a lot of my plans of this year. So nikaona ni better kama tunaweza tukawa na this session ambayo watu wengine pia watasikia, pia wataweza kujifunza mambo tofauti tofauti, kwa sababu hata kama ukiwa unajifunza sehemu nyingine, lakini wanasema always mentors wanakuaga kwa sababu ni watu ambao wamepita kwenye that field, wanakuwa wanajua the real experience, tofauti tu na watu ambao unaweza tu ukawa unasikiza different from spaces like this, kwa sababu you can watch tutorials on YouTube, but it's in rare cases people answer the comments that you, if you have additional question au kama unataka kupata kitu zaidi ya hapo. Kwa hiyo kumekuwa na limits, japokuwa kumekuwa na sources of kumekuwa na sources nyingi ambazo watu tunaweza tukajifunza, lakini kumekuwa na some limits. So kwangu mimi nikaona itakuwa better kama tukiwa na session kama hii kwa sababu mimi pia ni one of my friends alishare na mimi kuwa kuna workshop ambayo itafanyika lakini itafanyika by the way, na naweza nika join nikaenda kujifunza mambo tofauti tofauti, na by the way nilijifunza mambo mengi tofauti na mimi nilivyotarajia kujifunza kwenye that workshop. So nikaja kuona kwamba mtu ukikutana na mtu ambaye ana experience zaidi yako unaweza kujifunza mambo mengi zaidi, umeona. So pia nimeona kuna umuhimu wa sisi ambao tuna operate in a digital market, sio tu kujifungia kwenye area moja kama sisi wewe ni content creator ama unafanya kitu chochote in a digital market, lakini ukawa uko in just a single area. Kama hivyo tuko Tanzania, una engage na other content creators in Tanzania, you don't get the new experience from other people. So nikaona it's better if we have this kind of spaces that itakuwa ina include different peoples, tutakuwa tuna exchange, tunajifunza mambo mapya, kama kuna challenges, kama kuna vitu ambavyo we can take into advantage, as Moses Kemibaro just mentioned, the AIs technology and how it takes ina simplify almost everything. On my testimony too naweza nikashare on that. Mimi ni YouTuber of course for quite a long time, lakini nilikuwa nikihangaika kuandika script and stuffs, lakini after the coming of ChatGPT it may simplify a lot of things. Instead of going to Upwork to hire different people to write a script and prepare the videos, you can just use ChatGPT and do a lot of work that before ilikuwa inabidi umlipe mtu ili uweze kufanya that exactly work. Na good thing ni kwamba these AIs zina access na many sites na zinaweza kufanya mambo makubwa pengine tofauti na binadamu anavyoweza kufanya. Inaweza ika collect a lot of data more than a human can. So wewe tu inabakia kazi ya kuweza kukaa uchambue kipi utumie na kipi ukiwacha, lakini all in all ni kwamba kuna chance kubwa katika digital market. Instead ya kubakia unategemea tu kupata ajira kwenye mifumo ya kawaida, unaweza ukawekeza muda wako ukaacquire a certain digital skill na baadaye ikaweza kukutoa kabisa kwenye maisha. On my area pia naweza nikashare mfano wa mtu almost many people know about Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast he's now a millionaire. But all he do is creating video and posting on YouTube. Kwa hiyo amekuwa very famous in the world na anatengeneza a lot of money just to create videos. So that is digital market, fursa ambayo haikuwepo katika miaka mingi ya nyuma, na ndio maana watu wengi walikuwa wamezoea katika mifumo hiyo ya kawaida ya kuforce kupata kazi katika serikali na maeneo mengine kama hayo. Lakini sisi katika wakati wetu nafikiri unaweza kuangalia maeneo mengine ambayo yanaweza yakakufanya ukatoboa kimaisha, tofauti na kuajiliwa. Ukawa una target after umegraduate degree yako, wewe unatazama area nyingine ya kuweza kwenda kufanya kitu tofauti na kile ulichokisomea, au unaweza ukawa unakifanya kitu ulichokisomea lakini in a different way na ikakuletea faida zaidi. Kwa mfano huwa napenda kutolea mfano, you can have a lawyer ambaye ni wa kawaida, ana operate in law, anafika mahakamani, ni advocate au whatever, lakini anafanya shughuli zake kama kawaida. Ni mtu ambaye I can say maybe it's hard to notice au you can't notice mpaka uende ofisini kwake, mpaka labda uwe unahitaji umtafute ndo unaweza ukajua. Lakini when you meet a lawyer ambaye ni content creator, it's more easy for you to know what they do, kwa sababu wanaweza kuwa wanafanya hiyo kitu kwenye law, bado wakawa wanashare knowledge kwenye digital market, wakawa wanapata pesa nyingine tofauti na ile wanapata kwenye deals zao za kawaida, lakini pia inaweza ikampa watu wengi zaidi tofauti. So this is a call to you, call to everyone, kutumia this digital advancement into your advantage, na kwamba unaweza kabisa usitegemee ajira za serikalini ama ajira rasmi kama watu walivyozizoea, lakini ukaweza kupata ajira kwenye digital market. Digital market, I think it's a way, it's a wide, sometimes pia nimeona ni watu wakizungumzia tofauti, wakiwa wanapata mkanganyiko. Labda pia Moses Kemibaro, you can share your knowledge, your experience. When someone say a digital market, what do they mean? What do we have to understand when someone mention a digital market?
Yeah, for me, I think when it comes to digital marketing, I think the most critical thing here is that it's marketing that's done through some form of a digital medium, right? So whether it's you on social media, where you can use platforms like Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, or it's a website where you have your content, or it's email marketing where you're sending emails out. Even when you use things like WhatsApp for marketing or SMSs, all of those are different types of digital marketing things. And the idea is that, just like you use a toolkit, you have a screwdriver, you have a hammer, you have a tape measure. Use all these different tools to achieve a specific outcome. For me, the beauty about digital marketing, I think, from the point of view of when a brand or a business or a person is marketing themselves, is of course the fact that it's very affordable compared to other things. You can do marketing on digital platforms for almost free. Today on TikTok or LinkedIn, if you create content that's really good, you don't have to buy any ads, and people in the thousands of millions can see that content. You also find that it can be very targeted. So if you're trying to reach a very specific audience, so maybe you're trying to promote a product to 20 to 25-year-old living in Kinondoni in Dar es Salaam, and you're maybe selling a product that is targeting young mothers or babies, you have the ability to do that level of targeting so that only the right people see your content. Another thing that I think that's fantastic about digital marketing is real-time information or analytics. So if you're running an ad and you are seeing within 5-10 minutes that it's not delivering a certain result, then you can pause it, and not lose money, and kind of improve it until such time it achieves its targets, which you can't do with traditional media. It's also the ability for you to actually spend less to get more. Yeah. So if you compare the cost or the investment required to do digital marketing, it's generally and almost always much, much cheaper than, let's say, doing radio or TV or newspaper ads. So for me, I think digital marketing is that ability to create content, to run ads, to publish it on any of these platforms, to send those emails, to do SMS. But more importantly, it is the most cost-effective way of marketing. And more importantly, with platforms like TikTok and LinkedIn, where you don't even need to necessarily buy ads, if your content is good, then basically people will see it, and potentially it can open doors for you. So whether you're marketing on behalf of yourself or a brand, or you're doing it on behalf of companies or businesses that are trying to reach an audience that you are very popular, maybe people follow you, it is the most cost-effective and most practical way to reach people for your products, your services, and the information that you're trying to publish.
Okay, thank you. So I hope you all heard na mmeweza kupata experience ama kuelewa, kwa sababu nimeona several times pia watu wamekuwa wakichanganya just the term digital market. Kuna watu huwa wanafikiri that you have ni lazima uwe na some skills to be called a digital market. Example, when mtu anaweza akakwambia you must have this and this and this. But from what we've heard from Moses Kemibaro, and what I think it is too, kwamba it had just have to operate in a digital way. So if you have to, ni lazima iwe ime consider all the criteria of a market to exist, and it has to be in a digital way, not a traditional. That means there must be a buyer, there must be a seller, there must be a product or service to be sold or to be provided. That makes a digital market. It doesn't matter whether you are a photographer, if you are selling your pictures on a different platform, that you are digital marketer already. If you are a blogger, that direct you are a digital marketer. But if you are maybe what can I say? You might be a designer, but if you are doing it in a digital market, mean you're selling your stuffs on Instagram or any platform in a social media, or not a social media, but in a digital way, not in a traditional. In a traditional market, people has uh, you must meet to sell or to be to buy something. But in a digital market, it's a way more simpler, like Moses Kamebara just mentioned. You can even use these social medias without paying anything for the ads, and you can be promoting your stuffs, like he mentioned TikTok, and this is a living testimony. I hope everyone knows how TikTok videos now tunaziona mpaka kwenye Twitter, tunaziona mpaka kwenye WhatsApp statuses and everywhere. So it means that promotion is not only in TikTok. It's a very wide platform that everyone can use to promote the product, and that's how a digital market may simplify, and that's how we can take advantage to this. So Moses Kemibaro, back to you again. What do you think is things that are very important for someone that is just beginning the journey in the digital market, in order to succeed, in order to make that amount that we are talking about, or whatever? But for someone who just starts to do things in a digital market, what should they consider as important pinpoints for them to make sure they do those things, and to make them succeed in a digital market?
Yeah, thank you very much. So for me, the things that come to mind, even if you've never done digital marketing and you want to do digital marketing or you want to become an influencer, I think the first thing you need to do is ask yourself the question, why are you doing it, right? Are you doing it because everyone is doing it? Do you think you have something to share that's important? Do you think maybe it's a way of finding customers? Do you think maybe it's a way of starting a career online? So I think you've got to start off with why. Why are you doing it? What is the purpose? What is the reason? And I think if you understand the reason why from the very beginning, then it becomes a lot easier for you to then start creating content and doing the various things that are going to perform well. Number two, once you understand why, I think the next thing has got to be try. Yeah. So try meaning many times, and I see this problem with many people, they get scared or shy, or they get worried about what people are going to think when they put the information online. And as a result, they don't even start. I'd say 99% of the time, people don't even start because they're scared or shy of what people will think. But the truth of the matter is, what I've seen online, especially as a blogger and a content creator, is that the more content you publish, especially when the content meets three different criteria. One is it's educational, it can be informational, or it can be entertainment, right? So information that either teaches people things, informs them about things they don't know about, or makes them laugh or entertains them in some way. If you can achieve content that does one of those three things, generally you're going to find people are going to start looking at you. So again, educate, inform, or entertain, and you'll find that you'll get an audience. Number three, I think, is you need to be consistent, right? So, for instance, me, not a day passes by without me posting on social media at least 2 or 3 times a day. But every time I post, I'm very particular that the information must really achieve one of those three points of view. Another thing that I think is also critical is that when you look at social media today, you find that different platforms have different types of content. So if you go to, for instance, a platform like TikTok, TikTok is more popular with younger people. It's very informal, it's a bit fun. So the way that you create content for TikTok is not the same way you create content for LinkedIn. So you want to make sure that when you look at each platform, how do you say something on LinkedIn, which is almost like Facebook with a suit and tie. It's a bit more formal. And then TikTok is not the kind of place where you should be serious. It's a bit more fun, a bit more relaxed. So you could be trying to say the same thing, but the way you say it is different on each platform. If you go to Twitter, you know that, for instance, that there's usually a limitation to how many characters you can post, unless you pay for the Twitter Blue, the subscription. So again, or X Premium as they call it nowadays. So the question becomes, because of that constraint, how do you publish content there? Other things you need to think about is you want to also do what we call social listening. So before you publish content, spend time listening, following other people who maybe are talking about the same things. Maybe it's your customers, maybe it's your competitors, but spend time listening to what people are saying on social media. As you do more and more listening and more understanding about what people are saying on social media, you start to understand what is actually going to work best. Number five, I think, is maybe, and maybe I should have put this first, is learning or education. Meaning, today on YouTube and even on TikTok, there's so many videos that actually teach you what to do. So you can go to YouTube and say, how do I create a good TikTok? How do I create a good Instagram reel? How do I create a good LinkedIn content? If you search on YouTube or even just search on Google, there's so much information that's out there. And again, I think the problem here is that people sometimes maybe are lazy or they're busy or they don't make the time to do it. But if you spend enough time, you don't even have to spend a shilling to actually learn how to do good social media content. For instance, I've noticed in Tanzania, when you look at Instagram, the Tanzanian Instagrammers have many, many more followers than the ones in Kenya. I don't know how, I don't know why, but basically, I've seen many followers, people who have even 10 million followers. And I always ask myself, why is that different in Tanzania than Kenya? But the important thing is that somehow, for some reason, in Tanzania, people love Instagram. So if you know, for instance, that that is the most popular platform for content, then you need to learn how to create content for it, because that is where you're going to get the largest possible audience. And maybe another thing that is important is, I think in the NGO world, we call it monitoring and evaluation. You know, the idea that you can go into the platforms and look at something called analytics. So you can go to your Facebook audience insights and see how your content is performing. This is very important, because if you determine that maybe I've posted, 60 times in a month, but I've noticed three or four of those are getting maybe three, four times the engagement, meaning somebody liked, commented, shared, or did something with that content. You need to analyze that content and ask yourself, why is it that this particular content is popular? Maybe that particular day it was something to do with football. Like, I know for a fact that as an Arsenal fan, whenever I post content that has something to talk about Arsenal, my friends who are Arsenal fans are the ones who like it the most and also engage with the content the most. But also, you find that my other friends who follow people like Manchester United or Chelsea, uh, will also be making fun of me there at the same time. But you got to start looking at your content and ask yourself the question, what types of content get what kinds of engagement? And you might find that something that you put on TikTok or maybe put it on LinkedIn doesn't get the same engagement you might find on Facebook or possibly Threads. So again, content also performs differently on different platforms depending on the audience. All right. And then I think when you look at all of this all together, the question I think at the end of the day has got to be that you've also got to be patient, right? When you start this process, I've been blogging for 15 years. I've been working in the internet space, I think, for almost 25 years. So what I'm learning is that it's a game of patience. Yeah, you've got to be posting regularly. You've got to see what works. You've got to learn. You've got to sort of monitor and evaluate and look at your analytics to see what's performing best. But most importantly, it's not an overnight success story. People like us have been posting content on Twitter for over 10, 15 years. But through that process, people know you, people follow you, people know what you write about. Again, that's also important. People need to know why you write what you write. I write about technology and marketing and these things, and people follow me for that. So again, also try and find out what is it that you can write about really well, or what videos can you create, whether it's YouTube or TikTok, that will speak to people based on something that you actually know, something you have an authority about. But more importantly, with that consistency and patience, you will start to build a community around you on those platforms. And notice in all of these things that I'm saying, I'm not even talking about buying things like ads on Google, on Facebook, on Twitter, and so forth. I'm just saying that using good content and publishing online, whether it is to sell a product, whether it's to become famous, whether it's to, just build a community around things that you're interested in, which can be commercial or non-commercial. Maybe you're a person who works in health services and therefore you're not selling something. Just make sure that you're consistent and also patient before you see the results. It could take you months, it could take years before you actually find your rhythm and people pay attention to you.
Okay, thank you so much. I hope people are taking notes as I do. I wanted to ask you, what is the biggest challenge do you get through all these 15 years or over 20 years of operating in a digital market? What are the biggest challenges that you ever encountered on the way?
Thank you for that question. That's a very good question. I think all of these years, I think what has been probably the biggest challenge all along is that as passionate and as interested as I've been in this space, and we've had good days and bad days. I think the biggest thing that I've learned along the way, sometimes you can be very early in a space before everyone realizes what it is. And I'm telling you right now that I've been doing this stuff probably for close to 25 years. That means almost, half my life. But what I've learned along the way is that what starts small gets big eventually. And more importantly, even when people were spending a lot more money to buy things like TV ads and print and billboards, we had our little space where we were building websites, we were building services, we were doing social media. And to be very, very honest with you, it wasn't until COVID happened that finally it felt like the world and the market understood what it is that we've been doing all this time. Because I think until that point, yes, people are online, people are buying advertising, people are consuming content on the internet. But it's when COVID happened, people call it, digital acceleration. That's when the whole world finally became digital. From those who were the poorest to those who were the richest, anyone who thought the internet was just a fad or something to use for email and fun realized that they could actually live and do things like business and meetings and actually maintain their livelihoods because of the internet. And from that point of view, I feel like the first 20 so years were really just about setting the stage with a lot of suffering up and down through that period of time to get to that point. Other challenges along the way, because digital and the internet as a platform, I think, was very new in Africa. So having talent, people who knew what they were doing, people who were trained, people who could do the work was very, very challenging over the years. That meant me, my co-founders, and other people that I worked with had to do the work ourselves. We also find that the market for what we've been doing for many years is also very competitive because, again, the barriers to entry to digital marketing are very low. An 18-year-old who spends enough time on YouTube learning things, getting free certifications on platforms like YouTube, can actually basically become a competitor very, very quickly to a company that's been around for 20 years. So you need to be very, very consistently learning, consistently knowing what the best practices are and the next practices, the things that are going to become normal. Like right now, for instance, I'm teaching myself how to do TikToks. I'm teaching myself how to create content for that platform. I'm trying to understand what the next practices are. And also, again, just finding talent through the years was very hard, but it's also very competitive because it's so easy. Somebody just needs a phone, and the next thing you're competing with them. So barriers to entry are there. And then I think also increasingly what we're seeing is I think over the years we saw that when advertisers were spending money on TV, radio, and so forth, they'd only give digital maybe 5% of the total marketing budget, which means that for the longest time, this sector has been constrained in terms of your ability to hire people, to invest, to grow, because the market would never really give you enough money to do more. So again, post-COVID, we've seen a situation where budgets have gone up. Digital is being prioritized, but when it became more popular, obviously what that meant is that the cost of buying ads and so forth has also increased. It also means the market has become even more competitive for digital marketing services, including talent. So it's quite often that people get poached from one agency to another. But more importantly, I think the overall size of the pie, as much as there have been many challenges through the years, has grown. All right. So the kind of budgets we're seeing, the number of companies that are coming into this space, not just in Kenya, in Tanzania, globally, has grown significantly. So that, in a nutshell, I think, were the challenges. But I think on the offset, this was to be expected because this was a relatively new thing. And I think the blessing in disguise was the arrival of COVID. That really has changed everything about the way digital marketing is perceived today.
Okay, thank you so much. And if I may ask you, maybe what exactly made you choose blogging over YouTube or many other stuffs? Can we hear about that too? Maybe people can consider that when they are choosing a niche in a digital market.
So my blogging started off because I think at the time that I did, I mean, YouTube was already there. People were doing YouTube, but I don't think we had 15 something years ago, I don't think we had YouTubers the way we have them today, like Mr. Beast and all. There were people doing stuff, but I don't think it was a mainstream thing yet. Number two, I didn't quite see video as being the right medium for me because even then you'd have needed to sort of have cameras. Remember, this was the pre-smartphone era. That was when this stuff was starting to happen. And by nature and by experience, I'm a bit of a writer. Not that I was trained to be a writer, but I've always been able to write well. And it's a medium or the way that I communicate best, in my opinion. So I started off with blogging. And at some point, I think my blog was even one of the top 100 websites in the country. This is many, many years ago. So many opportunities came to me from blogging, and it was born out of frustration because I would read things in the paper, see it in the news about technology, and I noticed that the reporters didn't understand what was happening on the ground, especially in Nairobi, which we call the Silicon Savannah. How could you what's happening? They didn't understand it because they were not insiders. So mine was born out of frustration, where I wanted to sort of explain what's happening on the ground in this digital ecosystem. And over time, it became so popular that I started getting flown to conferences. I started getting free phones. I started getting people wanting me to review devices because of the blog. In fact, many people in the market know me more as a blogger than even a business owner, to be honest. And over time, of course, the things have changed. And once the blog got to a certain point, I started exploring other mediums. So I started a podcast about 2.5 years ago, which is going very well. I've also now really started investing in my YouTube channel. So everything I create on the YouTube channel, I also put on the podcast. I put on my blog. So what I believe in doing is I call it a media of one. So the idea is that you can create content for all these platforms in the different formats that exist. So you can create a video, you can create audio content for podcasting, you can create written content for your blog posts, you can create snippets for TikTok, which are short videos from your videos. You can create social media posts using infographics and all that. And I think tools like Canva, if any of you have ever heard of Canva, or maybe you've not heard of it, is a fantastic tool. Even the free edition is very, very useful as a free edition for creating content. Creating a podcast using Spotify for podcasters is free, it doesn't cost you any money. So yeah, it started off writing. It was what I knew then. It was what was known then. Blogs were much, much bigger in those days. But now the world, as we know, is gravitating towards audio and visual content. And therefore, I had to sort of start moving in that direction. And frankly, I'm seeing a lot of good traction around audio and visual content. And now, of course, learning how to create, things like reels and TikToks that are short. I promise you, I do not dance in my videos, but rather I provide the things around education, information, and maybe a little bit of entertainment.
Okay, thank you so much. So, guys, if you're just joining the space, this is a digital market space. We're trying to see the ways that anyone can monetize in a digital space. So, if you have a question, you can ask it on the comment section, or you can raise your hand. Then I give you the mic, and you can directly ask your question, and people will share their experience here. If you want to share your testimony, if you want to share the knowledge, you are very welcome. This is our very first space in 2024 in it Boresha Radio, and I as Mosal. Uh, yeah, so thank you so much for making time for this space, and thank you so much for tuning into this space. Okay, so if I may ask you again, Mr. Moses Kemibaro, so for your experience or from what you know, it can be experience or anything, in this world of digital market, the world of content creation. How much do you think big companies like Tesla and big boys, big guys like Elon Musk and other people, how much do you think they spend on making content and everything? Because now it become something very common. If you are a footballer, if you are a lawyer, as I mentioned before, if you're operating in any other field, but to some points you might need content creation if you really need to do things. I think in a serious way, because if you're selling 100 cups or whatever you're selling on just your shop, I believe through content creation you can sell even more than that. So, from your experience or from what you know, how much do you think these big guys spend on creating content?
Okay, now that you mentioned Tesla, that's a very interesting example because Tesla doesn't actually advertise. Okay, Tesla does not advertise. They do not run ad campaigns. The ad campaigns are based on information that people share with each other. And of course, Elon Musk, who has, I think, over 100 million followers on Twitter, also markets Tesla. He talks about what they're doing. So that's a brand that doesn't even require marketing, all right? They don't actually market. The thing sells itself. So I wouldn't say it's a good example in terms of spending a lot of money, but more importantly, the content that Elon Musk publishes, both for Tesla and also Starlink and also SpaceX, performs exceedingly well. And I think what you're seeing there is a reference of in the traditional world, we always assumed that marketing required you to spend money. But now we are seeing through the role of what they call key opinion leaders and also influencers that actually a brand unto itself or the owner of a brand can create such good content that his products actually sell. When you talk about people like Mr. Beast has built consumer products on the back of his popularity as an individual. And I think the future increasingly is going to go in this direction because when it comes to buying ads and so forth, which are still, of course, very effective, you today use Google ads or Instagram ads and so forth, the performance is great. But what if you don't have money? All right. So there are instances where if somebody just creates really good content in time with a large enough audience, they don't even need to buy a single ad because the audience is already there for the content. It's much, much easier to sell them a product. In fact, I remember reading a case about I forget this lady who's one of the Kardashian family members. She has like I think over 100 or 100 something million on Instagram, and basically, even brands have confirmed that when she promotes a product, they get a better return on investment than when they buy ads on Google and Facebook. So I think that's a dynamic that's going to change. Where individuals now can have much power around that, and increasingly it's because the individual is seen to be more authentic and more credible than when somebody goes and buys an ad on Google or let's say Instagram. So individuals who have built a good reputation, are trusted, speak the truth when they're posting content online, are the ones who, if they endorse or speak on behalf of a product the same way that Elon Musk does for Tesla, then that performance tends to be a lot better. So for me, again, you can come back to the biggest brands. I tend to think the biggest brands don't even spend that much on digital. And why is that? Because the brands are really well established already. Today, if you think about brands like Coca-Cola, you think about brands like, that have products that are well known and trusted. They don't really need to spend as much as a competing newer brand would do. But going forward, I think, especially on platforms like TikTok, one of the things I love about TikTok and also LinkedIn is that somebody might not even know you on those platforms, but your content can actually be seen by millions. I've seen people who have like a few thousand followers, but they have videos that have been watched over a million times on TikTok. And for me, that platform excites me a lot. Same for LinkedIn, because if the content is generally good, will perform well. And much of TikTok is based on the fact that TikTok follows something called the interest graph, which is different from the Facebooks and the Twitters of the world, which are what they called the social graph. So in the social graph, content was seen through the algorithm on the basis of who you are connected to. On the other hand, the interest graph is based on what people actually like to follow. So basically, if somebody has an interest in the kind of content you published, or the topic or the theme of the content you publish, then your content potentially could be seen by millions. I've seen in Kenya, for instance, people selling real estate. These guys are not even well-known real estate agents or companies, but they have videos on TikTok with millions of views. Whereas you'll find that a well established real estate brand in Kenya is spending millions of shillings a month trying to advertise on platforms like maybe Google and Facebook. So for me, that's kind of like the situation we're seeing, whereby there are two ways to this. If you have the budgets, you can buy the ads online. It's still good value for money compared to traditional media. On the other hand, if you create really good content, and preferably content that informs, educates, or entertains on platforms like TikTok, then that person with no advertising budget can possibly get as many views and even as many conversions as a company spending millions of shillings for zero. Their biggest investment, which of course is not free, is that they're creating content that actually resonates with the target audience or market. So those are the two dynamics or the two scenarios that we're seeing playing out right now in digital marketing.
Okay, thank you so much. So, someone just asked in the comment section, uh, someone who knows about this kind of digital market okay, actually, he want to understand about this different kind of digital market. I don't know if you can read it in the comment or should I read it for you.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it. Let me just read off. I'm just turning my microphone on. So let me explain the different things. So search engine optimization, what is it? Search engine optimization is mostly where you have an existing website or you build a website, and the idea is that the information that you publish on that website gets found online, which in turn can be a way of people doing business with you. So basically, somebody goes to Google, they search for something that maybe is the product or service that you offer, and because of the way you've built your content and doing something what we call meta tags on your website, they find your website on that basis. Over the years, SEO, in my opinion, and what I've seen over time, is no longer so much about what we call meta tags. It's becoming more and more about the content. And the reason for this is Google's business is very simple. Google's business is about making sure that the person who searches for something on their platform finds the right answer on the first page, right? Most people do not go beyond the first page in the Google results. So basically, Google is going to try and identify the pages or the websites that are most accurate to what that person is searching for. And therefore, SEO is very simple. You want to create websites or web pages or blogs that are almost perfectly designed in terms of the content you're publishing to solve a problem in terms of the information that that person is looking for. And the more and more you can do this, it goes back to the same principle I mentioned before, to inform, to educate, and even entertain. If you can have the right content at the right time for what the audience is looking for, that essentially is search engine optimization. You then have search engine marketing, which is a bit different because search engine optimization is where you don't buy any advertising. You create content, you optimize what they call your meta tags, and people find you without paying for any ads. However, search engine marketing is where now you buy ads like Google ads or Google search ads for people to actually find you online. So that means instead of being organic, which is free, you actually pay for the privilege for somebody to find you on Google. Now, an important point to make here is this: in SEO, you're not paying for any advertising, but you spend money and time to create content and optimize your keywords so that people can find you without any advertising. This can take much more time, 3 months, 6 months, a year for you to see the results. But when you do it right, it's like the gift that keeps on giving. You don't have to do it again and again because once those pages are there and they're linked up and somebody can find them organically, you're not paying for that privilege. On the other hand, when it comes to search engine marketing, you are paying for the privilege for somebody to find your website. Okay. So you're buying ads on Google search, you're choosing the keywords that you want to be found for. And as a result, then you're actually able to be seen. Social media marketing is kind of the things I've been discussing all along. It's the idea that you go to a social platform, let's say for discussion's sake, it's TikTok or maybe it's Instagram. You're publishing content on a regular basis. You've done the social listening to understand what are people talking about in your area of interest, whether you're a business or individual. Maybe you're selling real estate. Maybe you're somebody who talks about cars, but more importantly, with social media, where we spend most of our time online, you're creating content that is going to speak to a specific community or people based on your interests. So that is everything from creating content, publishing it online, buying ads, which is social media advertising or social advertising, looking at your analytics to see how it's performing and so forth. But more importantly, that's really about using only social media platforms. So typically, that's your Facebook, that's your Instagram, that's your TikTok, that's your LinkedIn, things like threads and so forth. Those are the social media platforms that you would use for your social media marketing. Email marketing is where you use email. Most of the time, you'd use a platform like MailChimp. And what you're able to do with email marketing is basically you will find a list of people who want to receive your content via email. Now, over the years, this has changed in some ways. I'm going to explain a bit more, but usually, if you go to MailChimp, you pay for a subscription. You can also use a free version of MailChimp up to a certain limit. But then the contacts that you use for sending email, ideally and actually legally, should be what we call consented, meaning somebody gave you that email and they've given you permission to send them information. So many of these email marketing platforms, it's basically what we call consented. And this is all about privacy. This is all about data privacy and so forth. You don't want to go and just grab emails from somewhere and send that information. You want to make sure the recipient has consented to receive your emails, and maybe they sign up for your newsletter on your website, and that's why they get the content. Again, beyond this, what has happened in recent years, there are platforms like Medium. Another one is called Substack. You also have LinkedIn, which has LinkedIn Pulse, which has e-newsletters. So now, even in those platforms, you can have a blog, but also email marketing built right into it. So you write an article on LinkedIn and automatically it goes out as an email as well. You write an article on Medium, recipients can also get it. Even on WordPress, which is the platform that many websites are built on, you also have this automatic emailing capability built in nowadays. So you don't have to necessarily use a MailChimp, which is the best email marketing platform in my opinion. But even many of these social platforms and blogging platforms now have the same. Content marketing, in some ways, is very similar to search engine optimization, in that content marketing is all about understanding what the people you're trying to target or the people you're trying to engage on all the platforms online, including social media, websites, email, and so forth. What are these people looking for? What are the things that are going to give you, as a brand or a person, visibility with these people? And the answer we always say usually is that you need to focus on what are the pain points or what are the issues that a particular industry or a particular group of people are facing when it comes to a particular situation. So if I know, for instance, that maybe one of the biggest problems that is facing a particular market could be maybe people who own Mercedes-Benz cars have a problem with the fuel injection system. And I know that this is a big market in the world for people maybe who need that. And maybe I supply the solution in terms of a product that solves that problem. Then I would write articles like 5 things you need to know about fixing the fuel injection system in a Mercedes Benz. So you're creating content that specifically is mapping to a particular pain point or an issue or a problem that a large enough audience is looking for. And what tends to happen then is that a lot of people create a lot of content with a very specific objective, that this content is going to solve a problem or provide information that a particular audience is looking for. And it doesn't always have to be of a commercial nature, but basically information that a particular audience or target group finds valuable because it solves a problem for them, possibly it entertains them, maybe it educates them on something that they need to learn. And often what you do is that as you create that kind of content, the call to action at the end of the content is sending them maybe to your website to buy it, sending them to your shop, maybe giving them a phone number, so that at the end of consuming that content, they take the next step. And again, this could even be a YouTube video, right? But it's information that people find valuable. Yeah. So in a nutshell, that would be content marketing for me.
Okay, thank you. I hope Jack understood all what you said, and so I've got this question to you know on the beginning of these hustles, this digital market and stuffs. Uh, we tend to move to different niches to find what can really work for you. Like example, you can do blogging today, and so someone is making more money on YouTube, and so you suggest to jump to YouTube. Then the next day you saw someone else is doing in another area. Uh, that's it's something that is I believe that it always happens as it happened to me, and I don't know if you have anything to share about these experiences, or if someone need to make more money, should they really consider train in a different niches so that they can make different they can make money from these different sources? Or
Yeah, you raised a very good question there, because with the emergence of so many different digital marketing platforms, it can be a big challenge for people. Like I'll give you an example. Once upon a time, there was a social media, one of the first ones called MySpace. MySpace was much, much bigger than Facebook those years ago. And in fact, there were people, especially musicians, who did very, very well on MySpace, because MySpace was more focused on music. It was a social media, but music was the main thing. So the people who became like the big stars on MySpace, many of them were unable to transition to Facebook. They tried to open up accounts and they tried to move there, and it didn't work. More recently, you find that there are people who are big Instagrammers, but they've not been able to crack TikTok and become popular there. There are people who are TikTokers, but they've not been able to crack Instagram and become popular on Instagram. So those dynamics are interesting, because sometimes it's a factor of the audience that's there. Sometimes it's the fact that maybe the content creator doesn't know how to create content for that particular platform. But usually you find that a user or content creator or even a brand is usually strongest on one particular platform. Yeah, if I look at myself right now, I would say probably my strongest platforms are actually Twitter and LinkedIn. right? I post stuff on Facebook, I post stuff on Instagram, I post stuff on Threads, but the places where I have the biggest audiences, about 20,000 on each, is LinkedIn and Twitter. And why is that? I think because over the years the audiences are built up there. The kind of content I do is mostly written content, and for some reason that translates very, very well. So why is it important to explore other channels? Going back to my earlier statement about MySpace, what happened to the people who were millionaires and huge on MySpace when MySpace was shut down? Yeah, those guys completely lost everything. Yeah, many of them did not resurface as content creators on the newer platforms. So my view is always that you want to understand what works on other platforms, because if for any reason, God forbid, Instagram goes out of business or TikTok goes out of business, what's your second phase? Yeah. And again, if you can master the different platforms, remember that each platform sometimes has different types of audiences. You could be selling houses, but you need to understand, how do I sell to a person on Snapchat versus selling to somebody maybe on LinkedIn? There's a completely different style of communicating on those platforms. So if you master or start to understand the differences and start to build content that is going to perform well on each platform, it means that you almost protect yourself so that you're not just at the mercy of one platform. I have a good friend of mine who is huge on LinkedIn. I think he's at almost 80,000 followers. But what I've noticed is that when he's publishing on LinkedIn, he publishes on Facebook and other platforms, his numbers are tiny, but he's mastered LinkedIn. But if LinkedIn wakes up tomorrow and changes the algorithm or even goes out of business, what happens to his investment in terms of time and effort building this community around his content on LinkedIn? So my view is that you want to make sure that you're learning all the platforms. And another reason for this is because if you look at what Facebook has done, or Meta, for both Facebook and Instagram, they have gone and copied feature for feature what was originally Snapchat. They've gone and copied feature for feature what is TikTok, because for them, the most important thing is they must continuously be popular and interesting for young people. Right? If you look at my age, I find that I am most comfortable and most familiar with Facebook because that's where we all started. But my generation of people who are over 40 years old, we are happy with Facebook. We don't mind Facebook. As much as the world is saying Facebook is for old people, we don't mind it because it works for us. But if I talk to somebody who's 25 years old, or 20 years old, like my daughter, she says Facebook is for old people. But if you're a business that is continuously looking to bring in customers, let's say you're a bank and you want to make sure that you get new customers who are in school or in university, you need to make sure that your platform is interesting for that demographic. And therefore, you need to make sure that you have the ability to understand, like it is today, what does it take to create great content for TikTok so that I can win that particular customer base. In fact, in North America, it's crazy because what they're doing now is they're getting 20-year-olds and 22-year-olds and young people to actually be what they call chief marketing officers for TikTok, because that means that the senior marketing managers in that organization have realized they don't understand the platform. So they're hiring these young people to create the reels, to create the TikToks, because that generation understands how best to communicate on that platform. But it does not stop me and you from learning and actually starting to understand how to use that platform so that we can speak to a younger audience. And the funny thing is, whatever we say is young today, TikTok we're saying is young, or it's rather it's becoming even more mainstream now. In 2 to 3 years, it's going to be everyone, right? So you had better learn the new practice or the new platform in social media, master it, become competent at it, so that you then can speak to the younger people and the new markets that you're going to have to service, whether you're a bank or even just an influencer. How do you stay relevant when maybe your initial audiences from 10 years ago are now older people and they're staying on Facebook, and that's fine. But how are you going to speak to the next generation of customers or even followers for your influencer content if you've not mastered that platform? So my view is very simple. You need to learn and you need to find out how you can be relevant on the platforms of the day, because if you don't do that, there's a very, very big risk that the platform that you're currently popular on might disappear or become irrelevant, so that you're not able to win new markets through the newer platforms.
Okay, thank you so much. So, to a person that is looking forward to venture into a digital market and they don't know nothing, they have no niche, they have no interest, no nothing, what would be your advice to someone who is asking the question, what should I consider, or which niche should I choose and operate on it, and why?
Very simple answer and a great question. Start with what you know, right? Maybe you're a civil engineer, you know engineering. Maybe you like to make cakes and you make fantastic cakes for your family and your friends. Start doing content about cakes. Maybe you are an excellent auditor, write about auditing. Maybe you're an excellent lawyer, write about a new law or new regulations that affect people in that space. Maybe you're a tax expert, write about taxes. Start off with the things that you know. And sometimes the things that you know doesn't have to be the things you do professionally, okay? Like I'll tell you for free that me, if you ask me anything about Formula One, I know about Formula One. I've been following Formula One for over 30 years. I know about Formula One. I can tell you everything. All right. It is not my day job, but I know it. If you ask me anything about Arsenal, I can tell you everything about Arsenal. And trust me, there are people online today making millions of dollars talking about sports teams. All right. It is not impossible. There's a person on YouTube that my daughter used to follow for years called Cookie Swell. Go check her out. She plays around with dolls and everything in those YouTube videos. She has over 20 million followers on YouTube, subscribers. That lady is probably a millionaire in dollars. But focus on, I think, two things: things that you know, of which could be a professional nature, or things that you love. And things that you love are things like sports, maybe it's cars, maybe it's planting trees, maybe it's gardening, cooking cakes. There are people making millions of dollars following their passion, talking about things that they're into. Maybe you're into politics, siasa, pengine that's the thing that you like. But more importantly, focus on the things that you know. Yeah, and knowing can be things you do professionally or things you do out of love, things that you enjoy to do. Maybe you're a good runner. Talk about the running experience. Talk about your run yesterday. So nothing under the sun is sacred. Nothing under the sun is too unimportant because guess what? Some people out there love what you have to say based on what you know. The other thing I want to add to that is I think authenticity. Don't write something or talk about things or shoot videos about things we're pretending to know something. Write it from a place of knowledge, from a place of experience, because the audience knows when you know or don't know. You know, I'm even so surprised that I wrote something last night when I was at Samsung and I looked at the phone and I wrote something online and I said, this phone looks like the S23, but the real changes are on the inside. Today, I went online to watch a YouTube video by Marquez Brown Lee, the guy called MKBHD, who reviews technology products. And guess what he says at the beginning of the video? This phone looks the same like the S23, but the changes are inside there. Me and this guy who has, I think, over 20 million followers, said exactly the same thing. Why? We both know technology. All right. It doesn't matter whether you're in Tanzania or you're in Kenya or New York. If you know what you know, that is what you write. That is what you share. All right. So those are the things I would say from that point of view. If you start with that, it's going to be much easier for you to continue doing that because it's things that you naturally A, either doing in your work or B, things that you actually enjoy. Yeah, remember there are people who even just write about their only football team and they make millions of dollars talking about their football team. Anything is possible online because what there's an audience, there's a community that will want to talk to you and be a part of what you're saying about that content.
Yeah. Okay. I can also be a good testimony to that. I remember after I graduated my high school education, I was so interested to forex or foreign exchange market. I know some you might be aware of it. So I was very attracted to this young South African millionaire, Sandile Shezi, and I started making different videos. And if you ever saw me, I tweet that. I made my first 5 millions without a 9 to 5 job or a uni degree. It is because I was uh, into that man. I was documenting about his life and things he loved and stuff because he had a lot of followers on Instagram, but he had no YouTube channel by then, by the way. So I thought it was a good opportunity for me, and I thought I can get some of those Instagram followers to be my YouTube subscribers. Something that really happened, and it helped me. It helped me in a lot of money from content that I do not even create. Just I see what people love about him. Sometimes his Instagram stories, his Insta reels. That's everything that I've been doing, and I made that got a lot of money, which I'm very happy about. I'm very proud of it, and I I many times share about that part of my life that made me uh, call myself a YouTuber, because after that I had to switch to other things. But that is something that I did at my very early stages of making content on YouTube. So I would also ask, what are you advise a person that they're not trying to see maybe what are they doing, what are they good at, but I don't know how can I put it, but I can give you an example. When the Twitter monetization just venture, a lot of people in Tanzania, especially, I don't know what happened in Kenya, but in Tanzania, many people started making different content about Twitter monetization, how you can monetize, and all about those stuffs. So, what would you advise someone that is just trying to create something just to earn the money? They don't have passion on it, they don't have experience or whatever, but they know if they make this kind of content, they're going to make a lot of money. What would be your advice for someone who is just venture into digital market?
That's a great question. Yeah, there's a lot of temptation to go in just for the money. I don't think it's the right thing to do, because it becomes very hard to sustain. And over time, people can start to wonder or realize whether you're authentic or not. I'll give you an example. There was a lady in Kenya who was an influencer. She was very popular. She was working with the biggest brands, Coca-Cola and people like this. And then people discovered that she was taking photos from somebody else's Instagram account, somebody I think in the US. And she was copying and pasting content, including the words and the pictures, as if they were hers. She was even claiming to have flown to somewhere, and she was using this other person's photo. So somebody noticed that this was fake. But you see, she was doing it to make money, meaning it wasn't her content. She was copying and pasting, and somehow she got caught out. Until today, I think this is 5 years later, this lady does not create social media content. It's as if the accounts just stopped. And I don't think she has the courage or the ability to come back because of that. Number two, if you're creating content for money, initially you're going to fool some people. But over time, people will start realizing this guy is here for the money. All right. They'll look at the content, and after a while, they'll know it's not authentic. And again, what is it at the end of the day? People will follow somebody and become a part of your community online, whether you're a brand or a person, because you add value to their lives. Okay, you bring something that they need. So if your content at some point runs out of steam because it's not authentic, it's not original, it's not solving a problem, then people will stop engaging with you. So my view is very simple: create content for the right reasons. And that is preferably things that you're into, things that you know about, things that you can speak and share with authority, that bring value to the other people who are consuming it. And again, if it's genuinely important to you and something that you truly enjoy, the money will follow, and I'll tell you for free right now that even for me, I don't even go looking for advertisers or people who want me to create content on their behalf. They come to me. So why? Because you had a track record of 15 years of creating content. People know who you are and they trust you. So you've got to build that reputation over time and maintain authenticity. But also, as you do so, that people can see that you're the real deal and not faking it. The faking it never lasts long term. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, sure. So thank you so much for all these informations on behalf of Boresha Radio and everyone who's taking notes from this Twitter space. I believe you guys learn a lot of things as I do. I do take some notes here, and I believe you guys take some notes from this Twitter space. By the way, if you're joining this space right now, this is Boresha Radio Spaces, and we're trying to see the area that how can someone monetize in a digital market? How can someone make a living without depending on these 9 to 5 jobs and other normal system that we were used to? In a world of a digital market, how can someone survive if the government does not hire enough people to finish this unemployment problem. So I want to thank you all for making time for this, and this is just beginning of this series of spaces that we'll be hosting here. This is the very first space, and we are honored to have Mr. Moses Kemibaro with more than 20 years of experience in a digital market. So back to Moses Kemibaro just to sum up and conclude this space before we close this session. What do you have to say to just to conclude on everything that we have said earlier?
Um, I think for me, a few things. One, for those who are thinking about it, who are not sure about it, I have one statement for you. Just start. Yeah, Anza Leo. Don't think, don't imagine, just do it. Because there's power in creating good content that you like and enjoy. And eventually, if it's looking for it as an employment au pengine nafasi ya kufanya kazi, watu watakuja. Itawezekana. The second thing is when you're doing your content, do it with passion, do it with, you know, knowledge and capability so that you know that this is content that you truly believe in. Create that opportunity for you. Number three, persistence. This thing is not going to work overnight. You need to spend months and years before you see your results. But the most important thing is if you start, at least in a year or two, pengine, you'll see the things coming back to you in terms of opportunities for business, for work, and other possibilities. And possibly the very last thing I would say is that, you know, I remain available to all of you. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on LinkedIn. If you have any further questions, any further clarifications, please do not hesitate to reach out and I'll be happy to respond to you. And most importantly, I think when I look at digital today, the things that are working the best are two things: TikTok and LinkedIn. If you can invest your time, watch YouTube videos, go on Google, learn how these two particular platforms are performing and why they're performing well, I think you can really do well on both TikTok and LinkedIn. Asanteni sana.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Moses Kemibar. Thank you for making time to share your knowledge and experience in this amazing space. I believe all of you guys have been learning, have been taking notes about all this experience of over 20 years. As to me, I don't know how can I explain the feeling after this space. By the way, uh, well, as I explained before, I first met Mr. Moses Kemibaro in a workshop in Dar es Salaam about social media and stuff, and I thought it were great opportunity of 2023. I learned something that is it's quietly changed a lot of things about how I create and how I make schedules and how I do things online. I even come to take seriously some tools like Canva that I normally used to take it easy because I thought it was not a powerful thing that I can use as a designer and stuff, you know. But I then make time for it, learn about Canva and other steps. I made my first content calendar, a year content calendar that is from that workshop. So I thought it was good opportunity for you to hear from Moses Kemibaro. And I believe if we ask again for another opportunity, if he has time, we'll be honored again to have him back. Today, we also invited Meet Melts. That is popular in Tanzania too, is operating in the digital market, but unfortunately, he got an emergency that we couldn't have him in space. We also invited Nkunga, that is creating healthy content in Twitter, but unfortunately, he had an emergency. His phone is broken down, so he couldn't be here to the space too. But I hope next time we're going to have everyone that we're going to invite in these digital market spaces, and I believe it's going to be a changing tool to everyone who's going to be a member of these spaces. So, on behalf of Boresha Radio, I would like to say thank you to everyone who have been here since the beginning to the end of this space, and I believe you have learned a lot. But if you have something to share, as Moses Kemibara mentioned, you can just reach him on Instagram on Twitter, on Thread, on TikTok, and any other social media that you know, Moses Kemibaro is there. And ever since I know him, he's posting a lot, guys. So you can just go, you can ask him for the advice, you can just learn from his daily posts and stuffs. And next time when we invite another person, or when we invite Moses Kemibaro back, you're going to see the poster, and I believe you're going to lean a lot. So on behalf of Boresha Radio, I would like to say thank you to everyone who made time for this, and let other things or whatever you do, but you make time to listen to this space. I say thank you on behalf of Boresha Radio and Ruka Creative Company. So I wish you a good night, and have a very productive day by tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.